Rwanda's lush landscape, its rich biodiversity, its wonderful people and culture make this highland paradise a one-stop location for adventurers, safari lovers and peace seekers. Located in the heart of Africa, the nation gives safe and easy access to spots that hold parts of our planet's most ancient natural history. And with so much to offer, Rwanda has made sure that all its visitors get to experience this enchanting land through a mix of contemporary comfort and traditional values to truly discover Rwanda. Mountains, volcanoes, forests and more. Rwanda's portion of the Rift Valley is a vast landscape made of varied habitats, and its conservation story is as unique as its beauty. One of the protected and well-conserved parts of this region is a national park, a symbol of pride in the nation's legacy of conservation. Coming up is the singular story of Volcanoes National Park.
The Volcanoes National Park is part of the Virunga Massif, which is the habitat for the mountain gorillas, not just in Rwanda, but also in Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. So it's a transboundary protected area.
The Virunga Massif is a chain of volcanic mountains in Central and East Africa. A rich tapestry of biodiversity and enchanting scenery, the Virunga has suffered a long ordeal.
Going back 50, 60 years, we go to a period where conservation, tourism had no meaning here at Volcanoes National Park. And therefore, even the fact that this park was already a national park, was protected, what was happening was actually the opposite.
The once critically endangered mountain gorilla subspecies was discovered in 1902. Years of war, hunting, habitat destruction and disease almost led the species to extinction until the intervention of the international wildlife community.
22 years ago, when I started here at the Volcanoes National Park, of course, things have already improved in terms of the work of conservation, especially the NGOs, the international organizations, and the active researchers, gorilla doctors. So the park was really kind of protected by law. However, since I have been here, we have seen a very, very different shift where the work of conservation, the innovative programs to change how conservation of the Volcanoes National Park is done is implemented and driven by a national program, by a strategy.
The vision of government of Rwanda to restore conservation areas, forests and fragile ecosystems that had been destroyed by human activities. So the forests, the national parks, and all wildlife that call these areas their home thrive together with the people that also live in the adjacent areas.
Where rangers, the park management are not fighting with the local communities, but where you see, tourism and conservation creating opportunities, creating benefits, what we call the tangible.
The conservation of the Volcanoes National Park has given way to the most unique tourism offering. A wildlife encounter in the thicket of Virunga's high-altitude forests, aided by guides and trackers, all with a background in conservation.
This is our tracking team. So I alone have been seeing us using the radio, keeping in communication to them. Then they give us an idea which direction the gorillas are taking. Meeting the trackers here, it's a sign that the gorillas are a few meters away from us. So that means it is from here. One of them will lead us where the group is. So normally their role is to make sure they come earlier than we do. For them, they start well with the group the day before the trail. Then that's why we have these radios. We keep in communication to them.
This making November 1 duhagaze hano ku gacaca ka mbere ho. Making November, this making November 1.
When we are doing a daily monitoring following them, we are updated how far they are. Then we know which families are accessible for tourism, but for tracking we keep following them. And some of them we are using them for tourism like I've been doing, but there are others that we leave them for research. But be a tracker or a guide, it is a situation that very sure you are sure about the safety of the people you have. So we need first to learn the behaviors of these animals and the personality of which gorilla in front of you.
Turagenda tukagera aho twawusize tukareba tugakurikirana ingagi dukurikije icerekezo zaganyemo dushingiye ku bimenyetso by'aho zakandagiye aho zarishije ndetse n'aho zataye amase. Hari igihe tuzigeraho mu bitanda tugasanga zikirimo bitewe n'impamvu yazo bwite, zishobora gukererwa kubyuka bitewe n'imvura cyangwa zikerewe bitewe n'uko nk'ejo habanje zakoze urugendo rurerure zikaba zananiwe.
Quietly nestled, the gentle giants almost remain concealed by the bamboo plantations. The ones visited by tourists are habituated to their presence. Unthreatened and relaxed, they go about snoozing, grooming, nursing and playing. Like humans, this giant ape's gestation period lasts 9 months, and the baby is nursed by its mother for over 3 years, making procreation possible only every 3 years per female. Despite a prolonged mating routine, coupled with delayed sexual maturity, the once critically endangered mountain gorilla's population has almost doubled over the last 40 years, giving Rwanda its unique brand of ecotourism.
Amazing positioning of Rwanda as an ecotourism destination that this product created, and most importantly, the real story of conservation that shows that, you know, when you work to preserve nature, nature pays you back. We had the best year in 2019, where tourism generated $498 million for the economy, and gorilla tourism alone generating 21% of that. When we're talking about the 21%, we're not counting the employment opportunities that were created.
I don't have the exact figures, but almost 80% of our staff, they are from the families around here.
Bamwe dukorana bari barushimusi baduhaye akazi, bamwe n'abagaradi abandi n'abaporoteri, abandi bakora mu mahoteli yegereye parike.
Abanyoboye koperative Kayiki ikora ubutubuzi bw'imbuto y'ibirayi mu Kinigi, tukaba turi abafatanyabikorwa hano kuri RDB tubafasha kubungabunga ibidukikije. Mu buzima busanzwe twe dusanzwe turi abantu baturiye parike babayeho mu buzima bw'ubuhigi, noneho twibumbira mu makoperative tubisabwe na RDB kugira ngo badufashe mu buzima bwacu bwa buri munsi. Badushakira ibyo gukora, bakaduha imirimo yo gukora, natwe umunsi ku munsi tukabungabunga parike, tukakontorora ari umuhigi ku buryo atajya muri parike. Hari amafaranga ava ku bukerarugendo baha amakoperative. Twiteza imbere, abana bacu ntago babura amafaranga yo kujya ku ishuri, ntitwabura ibyo kurya, twakuyemo n'inka.
In 2005, Rwanda started a policy, a scheme called the Tourism Revenue Sharing Program, which started providing 5% of park revenues generated across all national parks, invested into community livelihood projects. This program has been a game changer.
In any village, you can see a water tank. It came from the park, conservation and tourism revenues. When you see a school, it's linked to the park. When you see a health center, it's because of the park. Visiting the Volcanoes National Park is just beyond experiencing wildlife. It's experiencing people and how we have created the story, of despair, losing hope, to the new story of a thriving wildlife communities, a story of hope for the future.
Nestled in the forests of Volcanoes National Park in Rwanda, almost disappearing as it blends into its surroundings, sits a unique luxury property, Bisati.
Bisati, simply put, is to create the most luxurious experience with gorillas on our boundaries. Building a lodge for gorilla viewing was let's say, a no-brainer. There was no doubt before we invested that there was a hole in the market in Rwanda for the luxury tourists and targeting into your ultra-high net worth customers around the world. And that was where the gap at that particular moment in time existed. So that was our target market on day one.
Another target for Bisati was to create a travel opportunity with minimal impact and positive benefits for the region, its biodiversity and communities, which began with the planting and nurturing of thousands of trees in the area 5 years ago.
The very simple goal is to triple the amount of land and conservation under the influence of conservation and wildlife in the future. If you take this property here, as we speak today, when we bought this piece of land, there wasn't any trees at all. It was farmland. With that reforestation, what's happened over the past 5 years is all of a sudden we're starting to see wildlife coming back into it. So some of the monkeys, the golden monkeys, are coming back in. We've seen bird species that weren't, they're in the Volcanoes National Park, but now they're actually living here. A lot of the insect species, and I mean, not so long ago, we had our first gorilla visit. A silverback came in onto the property. Now that to us is a great measure of success, where we've created a new safe haven for potentially a new population to live in.
Seeing golden monkeys come on quite a regular occasion right in front of the lodge, and they feed on bamboo. This particular kind of bamboo is their favorite food. So the bamboo has essentially just thickened out. It forms several shoots within the plant that just go up, and that's why you can see we've got some really nice thickets. Yeah, the bamboo is doing incredibly well. You know, people, the farmers around us, they see these things and they see that reforestation basically brings more wildlife, and with wildlife brings tourism. The more benefit it is to the community.
Basically, it's future growth if you look at it in a pure business perspective. A growth opportunity. As the park extends, the ability for this particular area to house potentially more gorillas or more gorilla families in the future will allow a growth in the tourism numbers and arrivals into that. And that will obviously increase earnings for the country, increase lodge beds that are required to host that number of guests, and it's going to provide more jobs, which means more taxes, etc. So that's going to provide another tier of long-term potential revenue for the industry and for the country at large.
Got about 43 hectares of land, so it's a lot of trees in our property, most of which has been done by our agronomy team, but also with the help of the local community that lives around us. So community involvement is vital to the whole reforestation process.
I work in the nursery, deforestation. Sometimes I go to Rwanda to work in the garden. Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from around here at Bisate Lodge. I didn't go to school for this. I started this when I reached here. So I started this from Bisate Lodge. We are creating the areas to stay in. We are giving a warm welcome those animals to come back to the places that they live a long time. So according to what you have done now, so some animals, they are living now here, they take here as a home. So that's why I can say I'm so happy to have a nature like this one.
In the lap of nature, the exclusive Bisate Lodge is home to only 6 wilderness villas. From the outside, they appear like capsules made of bamboo, rustic and authentic. On the inside, they're a world of luxury, fitted with all things fine. Spectacular and singular views from each of the villas, accompanied by a superior dining experience, from wine to food.
In real terms, it's easy to build a really nice facility. It's a great architect, great designers, and an investment of cash. Having said that, at the end of the day, what do people remember? They'll remember the people, and they'll remember the experience that they were looking for. So at the end of the day, the USP is effectively around the experiential value of wildlife, which was probably the reason people wanted to come in the first instance. And hopefully in that educational part of them visiting with us, they take back a little bit more information on caring for the planet, caring for conservation, caring for the people and the cultures that we work amongst. So hopefully we change their lives to take home with them.
Caring for the planet and its people sits high on Rwanda's agenda. The nation has not only successfully repopulated one of its most depleted national parks, but continues to ensure not a single animal is lost to poaching or other human-animal conflicts. The next segment takes you to the Akagera National Park and unfolds its awe-inspiring story of conservation and its many game safaris. Have a look. Home to the Big Five, the sprawling Akagera National Park demonstrates another feat in Rwanda's story of conservation.
Akagera is a very unique savanna in that it's the only protected savanna in Rwanda. So it's a unique piece of habitat supporting species that you cannot find elsewhere in the country. It's also very unique in the sense that it's variable in habitat. You have the open plains where we're standing now, all the way through much denser wooded savannas, and each sort of micro-habitat can support a different suite of species. So the diversity in Akagera is astronomical in a lot of ways.
While the most sought-after wildlife species thrive in this arid terrain today, the national park, just like Rwanda's citizens, has survived a painful past.
Akagera National Park was classified as a national park in 1934 by Belgium colony in that time. It used to be twice bigger. Now we have we remain with 1,122 square kilometers. In the specific case of Rwanda, we had a lot of Rwandans forced to live in other countries, neighboring countries. So after the genocide, Rwandans who had been living in exile were welcome to come back to their country. They needed to settle somewhere. And so at some point, the government took the decision to manage it in the best possible way. To use a part of Akagera as a resource because a lot of them come first for agriculture, second for the livestock. So they put a lot of pressure on Akagera. And I think in in 2010, the Rwanda government just put a border to just say this is the national park and this is the land you can use.
As part of the nation's Vision 2020, only 2 decades ago, Rwanda Development Board with Africa National Parks set upon a journey to reverse years of damage and restore the park's ecology.
We start with protecting. We put in place an efficient law enforcement, all the technology we need to protect an area. That's the first step.
The entire ranger, we have almost 8 sites ranger posts, whereby 2 to 3 rangers always are on patrol daily. K9 unit, we are using dogs in law enforcement to track all illegal entrance inside the park. Our dogs are trained to track human scent. So once we get the footprint in the fence, we bring our dogs in to track the person who is inside. Or when the rangers have lost the track of a person, this when we implement using dogs, because their sense of smell is very good.
Good find, guy.
Once we make him prepared with all harness and long line, we give him a command to search. He will search all the way to the line I want. Then once he locates the human scent, he will start following the scent. For example, in 2021, we had almost 21 cases, and 7 of them they were outside the park, and the rest they were all arrested inside. They are high success rate comparing to the work effort that is being done.
When we were sure that the land in the Akagera National Park is protected, we restock it. So we start with what was in the park.
Lions, giraffes, zebras and rhinos were introduced to recreate Akagera National Park's natural equilibrium.
Black rhinos occurred in the park naturally and were extirpated, with the last one being seen in 2007. So after 10 years of absence, the decision was made to reintroduce black rhinos. That project has gone incredible. The population is increasing, no rhinos have been lost to poaching, and all of those successes set us up for doing the translocation of the white rhinos this past year. And it's an important one for conservation, because whenever you can expand the range states of endangered species, that's great, especially when you can expand into areas that are well managed, well protected, and good habitat for the species you're wanting to translocate.
The habituation of the white rhinos is currently underway, and the experts at Akagera trust they will be able to merge with the wilderness of the park in no time.
Yeah, white rhinos are very social rhinos, so they typically form small groups. They're happy to interact in high densities, provided there's enough resources. Very big animals, so they need to just constantly be grazing to satisfy their nutritional needs. And then they spend much of the hottest part of the day also wallowing and looking for water before sleeping most of the night.
The successful translocation of an endangered species has further expanded the scope of research at Akagera National Park.
Yeah, Akagera's had quite a long stretch with not a lot of research being done inside the park. It just hasn't been an interest of researchers externally or internally. But now that the park is recuperating and regenerating and becoming healthy and well populated with lots of different animals, we need to start thinking about how to manage from a more scientific standpoint. So a lot of the data collection that the department is doing is trying to better inform the management decisions that are being made day to day, as well as trying to look at how things are going to look like in the park in the future.
We can show that Akagera can keep those species in safe place. We are winning on all the line in terms of conservation, because our first target in Akagera is conservation, but 2 in development. It means that tourism
Available within a range of price points. and catering to thousands of visitors annually. The Akagera experience is designed to be wholesome.
Kubijyanye wenda n'inyamaswa nabwo ni muri ya sekiteri y'ibyanya bikorwa. Inyamaswa zose ubu ngubu maze kuzimenya, inyoni maze kuzimenya, ibiti bimwe na bimwe maze kubimenya, uburyo bibaho, uburyo inyamaswa zibaho, mbese n'uvuga ngo hano naho gukiye ubwenge bwinshi cyane.
Akagera's wildlife safari tourism has no history of violence, and the park's management takes the safety of tourists and animals very seriously.
Akagera is safe. We have a team of law enforcement made of around 120 people. But to protect animals from tourism, we try to set rules and regulations and policies that you cannot safe drive after 6 p.m. or before 6 a.m. Also, in terms of COVID regulations, we still test our visitors to enter the park.
Our teams in national parks have been trained and have worked through the process of creating the right experience and work together within one way or the other to make sure that they all contribute to creating a memorable experience, but also creating a safe place for the wildlife and of course the tourists.
We saw lots of different animals, and just the landscape, the whole thing of the park, it's amazing. So coming from Europe, where we have signs of human activity everywhere, to be out there for 3 days where there is no sign of any human activity, only the people who are visiting the park. It's phenomenal. It's like we can't understand maybe from a European perspective how just unspoiled the landscape is.
We've seen twice as many leopards as I have seen in any nation at all. So the surprises never stop. Every time I turn around, there is a new surprise, something I didn't expect, and it's always better than the last thing.
As the day game drive comes to an end, it opens a short window of time for meeting the nocturnal residents of the park.
Night game drive cannot be long, because as long as people pass long time in the night, they get tired because they have been driving around. Also, animals are getting used to them. So it is an activity that can take 2.5 hours and done around the reception, close to the hotel, where we are focusing on nocturnal animals like hyenas, genets, leopards, and other among them.
As the sun rises over the Akagera National Park, so does the perspective with its next attraction, the air balloon.
We introduced the hot air ballooning safaris, which is amazing. It's an amazing way, an amazing experience of visiting the national park from a different perspective.
The air balloon safari starts early in the morning when the air is still.
We are coming around 5:30 a.m. every morning, and first we are checking the wind direction and the wind speed, weather condition. And if everything is okay, then after that I will give you a briefing about our flight and the landing position, direction control and everything. Then after that we can go. The really great view of the Akagera and the lakes from the top we have seen. And also we have seen all kinds of animals, lions, elephants, zebras or others, but depend of your luck, depend of the wind and weather condition. So also sometimes the season. But usually we have seen most of kind of animals from the top. Balloon speed maximum can be 20 kilometers per hour. More than 20 kilometers, we should cancel. We can't fly. Right now, it's 1 and 2 kilometers. It's too calm, too safe. Yeah.
One of the best attributions of Akagera is that it's a very scenic park. The landscape, the lakes.
One of these lakes is also considered the source of the Nile, fed by the Kagera River, after which the park has been named, making the boat safari a more authentic and exciting adventure.
The boating is an experience on its own because you get to see the land animals and the water, those that thrive in water. The most thrilling experiences being so close to in such a safe place to animals.
Just like all the other safaris at Akagera, the boat safari is led by an experienced guide.
Hello. You're welcome to Akagera National Park. Emmanuel is my name. I'm a park guide as well as a boat captain. So the boat ride will take 1 hour. So on the boat ride, I hope to see hippos, I hope to see crocodiles, I hope to see lots of birds, but I also try to check for the elephants and the buffaloes, because sometimes, not often, sometimes at this time, that's when elephants and buffaloes come down for drinking. So I will try to check for them and see if I can spot them. So what I ask you to stay seated, particularly when the boat is moving.
After explaining the safety protocols, the boat's captain puts the machine in full throttle. With over 500 unique bird species at Akagera, the boat safari offers a close-up of the water birds that swarm the islands in Lake Ehema.
We are at Nyiraviriro Island. So this is a fixed or a real island, and it's a good home to birds and crocodiles. So there are lots of different species of birds. This one is ahead of us. These are white-breasted cormorants. Then that group to the left with the long necks, these are African darters. Sometimes people call them snake birds. When you look at it, when he's swimming, when you look at the neck on top of the water, it looks like a snake. So that's why sometimes people call him snake bird. Scientific name, it's Aninga rufa. So you can see that some of the branches of these trees, they were whitened by guano. So this guano helps fish. Then birds come back and prey upon fish. It's like an ecosystem cycle. Some of them can go 1 meter deep when they are looking for fish. Mostly the African darters, these ones with the long necks, they go more deep than the cormorants.
Other than birds, aquatic animals like the hippopotamus and the Nile crocodiles also feature into the package. Though not always visible, they're surely lurking under the surface, adding suspense to the journey.
These are aquatic animals. By aquatic, what I mean, they live in the water. So much of their time, they live in the water because of the sensitive skin. And they live where the lake is shallow, where they can stand and rest. Hippos are not good swimmers. They just trot under the water. Then late in the evening, this is when they come out for food or for grazing. And they can graze outside the water for the whole night. Then early in the morning, they can come back and stay in the water for the whole day. They just come out of the water for a short time, just for short sunbathing. And hippos are vegetarian.
The last leg brings tourists to the elephant hotspot. And with plenty of watering holes, the animals can be found in their most peaceful state.
I'm looking at 2 bull elephants, 2 big bull elephants up there on the edge of the peninsula. Okay.
So these are African elephants. Both are males. So the big one to the right, it's the oldest. That one wallowing in mud is still young, is middle-aged. So we have African elephants. They are bigger than Asian elephants. So sometimes bull elephants come out of the herd or out of the group, then they can roam lonely. Then after a couple of time, they can go back and join the group. That is when you find them together. So at this time, they come down for drinking. See, after drinking, you can see that they are wallowing in mud, wet mud, to cool themselves.
Watching the big African elephant nourish itself in the company of its family marks another highlight for all those that visit the boat safari in Akagera.
One of the highlights, we saw elephants right on the shoreline. When we went right in, we got right close to an elephant. We were on the water and he was right in beside the shore. Crocs, hippos. We went to an island where it was just completely swarming with birds. Yeah, it was amazing. The boat trip was really, really good. Yeah.
In a bid to stand out, Rwanda has meticulously utilized its natural resources to create a one-of-a-kind wildlife safari experience that takes into account all tastes and preferences.
Everyone wants to go in the park out there and see wildlife, but the park offers many options to how you can see wildlife.
Fly across the national park and see the safari and do a safari from the hot air balloons. You can also drive across the national park to experience the wildlife in its natural habitat on the ground. But we also offer boat safaris on its many lakes of the national park.
With all these options, Rwanda's Akagera National Park is not only changing the way people view animal safaris, but the country itself.
It changed my mind of Rwanda because I have to say, before we came here, I only was thinking of the negative too. But Rwanda has so much more to give people than that. The place is just, you feel welcome. I truly feel welcome here.
Up next, we will take you to another enchanting location in Rwanda, a forest revived from near death and its people empowered. Once haunted by silence and now buzzing hoots, chirps and whistles. See for yourself. A giant entity made of smaller beings, growing, changing, breathing. The Gishwati forest, like any other, appears alive. A part of Africa's Rift Valley, the Gishwati Mukra National Park once spanned over 100 square kilometers, but by the 20th century, its future hung by a thread. As one of the most densely populated districts in Rwanda, the forest's resources and its land was exploited until a change in its status quo.
This was gazetted as a reserve. Being a reserve was not strictly protected because there could be some flexibility to allow communities utilize some of the forest resources. The government of Rwanda decided to gazette this protected area as a national park, which means specific and few activities will only be allowed to be conducted inside this protected area as a national park. Number one, research. Number two, tourism. And then protection activities.
The forest has lost 98% of its tree coverage, and it was almost gone. And the remaining part was also being cut, but the conservation effort has been made. Now we have 15 square kilometers that are fully conserved, and also serving as a habitat of different species of primates and also other biodiversity.
In order to protect the forest, the government of Rwanda works with the local authorities to mobilize and engage the park's surrounding communities.
It's very important for them to be engaged so that they benefit from the conservation of Gishwati, but also we need a feedback from them to also support this initiative of protecting and conserving Gishwati, where they can participate in different activities, in fighting against illegal activities, stopping illegal mining around the park, grass cutting, tree cutting, and so on.
But engaging the communities in conservation efforts also came with its challenges.
Of course, it takes long to change their mind because they have been using the forest in different ways. When it comes as a national park, to change that mindset of them, it takes time. It takes time, but because of the government lines and the policy they put on, and the way they teach people, the community.
The change in the community's mindset has been greatly assisted by Rwanda's tourism revenue sharing program.
Through the sharing of the tourism revenue that we get on an annual basis, we give them 10% to improve their lives, to support different projects for their development. Since we started this program in 2019, we have already given out about 500 million Rwandan francs, which could equate to 500,000 USD, going to different community projects.
We do only employ local communities, so they are also getting job in all the work being done inside. All the truckers we have are from this community. All the people we are employing in different activity, maintaining the trade network inside Gishwati, also in the tourism product development, they are all from this local community.
From a bioreserve into a national park, now the Gishwati forest is expected to add to Rwanda's tourism offerings.
Gishwati will, just like other national parks, continue to boost tourism diversification first of all, as it's also unique and another place for visiting the amazing rich biodiversity that we have as a country.
The Gishwati forest hosts a balanced ecosystem with a complete food chain. The biggest and the most dominant species is the eastern chimpanzee, followed by 3 species of monkeys, jackals, civets, other mammals, and a great number of bird species, all part of the forest's experience.
Currently, you can visit the Gishwati part of the Gishwati Mukura National Park, where you can see habituated primates, including chimpanzees.
Here in Gishwati, we have one community made by 35 individuals. We have a team of trackers that are with them and they know where they are. And we use the trail inside Gishwati to get where they are. And whilst getting there, sometimes they come out of the nest and we can observe them for 1 hour. And the maximum group is, for the groups is 8 people to track the chimps. Chimpanzees have the behavior of staying in the canopy of the trees. They use the branches of the trees to build their nests. That is where they spend the night. It is a kind of like a mixture of plants, of branches of trees, and making like a bed where they stay the night. It is in the canopy. That is where they always stay the night. Chimpanzees are very smart and they have developed a brain. So they can recognize if there is someone in the forest, they can recognize if there is an enemy. If there is a new person, they can recognize that he's new to them. They can see uniform, they can differentiate people. Their way of living, it is like somehow organized And what I like from them is that they love each other. They do respect each other.
You know, wild animals in their habitats, you can't predict that you are going to see them in 1 day or 2 days, or you will be able to see them in 1 hour or 2 hours. For us, it gives us a hope that they are still natural, they are still active, they are active in their habitats, they can move in and out, they are not threatened, they are no longer threatened. So it's a good indicator, it's not negative.
From at the time I was arriving here is different from how it does look like now. One example I can give you, the time we were starting here, we had 13 individual chimps, 1-3. And now it is more than doubled. It does show that the forest is growing, and also our primates are having food. Because in their behavior, if they are not having enough food, if they are feeling like their life is hard for them, they do not make babies. So the fact that they are increasing in number, it does show that they are feeling safe and they are having enough to eat.
The 35 chimpanzees are at home in Gishwati. Hidden behind the foliage, they move in the canopy. Their hoots and grunts echoing and merging with the sounds of the forest's many residents. More than $44 trillion of the global economy is dependent on nature. It is impossible to rebuild healthy economies without investing substantially in our planet. A fact that resonates with Rwanda's proactive policy of conservation for building the nation's wealth one step at a time.
More species of wildlife are now threatened or endangered because of the lack of the right protection or the right approach to their utilization. So Rwanda wants to be a place where wildlife is safe, where wildlife benefits our people, and where wildlife pays back to our economy.
Thanks for staying with us on this journey through the land of 1,000 hills. We will soon start part B of our Discover series. Stay updated by following us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And remember, this is Rwanda.